Oh wow, didn't even add myself to the stage yet. Still trying to figure out how to get this thing to work. But all right. Abibifahodie, Abibitumi, Karibuni, back to Maktaba ya Chinwe. Yeah, we're back with part 2 of the book overview of the autobiography of Malcolm X. And today we have my beautiful compliment along with the lovely Mtoto Simbi with us today. You want to introduce yourself to the channel, to the show?
Sure. As you said, this is my love. And my name is Genesee. And this is our baby Simbi. She's out of the camera right now, but sometimes she likes to show out. So she might make a brief cameo.
Yeah, but you bring your family to the job. I'm all for that. But yeah, so this is gonna be the last video, or last episode, I should say, of us covering the autobiography of Malcolm X. Simbi trying to say what's up to the people. And yeah, so what we'll do is we got a few things that we want to go through the same way we've been going through it the last few times. We're gonna be talking about some things that we deem very important, that we reflected on throughout the last few chapters. Yeah, what did you have that you wanted to touch on?
I just picked one big point from the end of the book that I wanted to touch on.
Okay. Well, we can go ahead and jump into that first. I kind of have a lot of things, so I'll save that to after we jump into this one thing. So you got.
All right.
So what we got?
I'm sure this is on your list of things, but the thing that I picked is his stance towards what white people can do and how that kind of evolved at the end of the book. So towards the middle, when he was still in the Nation of Islam, he had a very hard stance against all white people, and even those who wanted to help. He said that there was nothing they could do. He kind of was dismissive towards them. And so that idea kind of carried on for some years. And then after he took his pilgrimage, his stance changed because he says he experienced some actual brotherhood with people that did not look like him. And so with that, he came to kind of the realization that one of the main problems is just American society itself. But he also changed his viewpoint on what white people can do. And that became to organize amongst themselves with others who also want to genuinely and sincerely help the cause. So not necessarily joining up with our organizations, but creating their own with values and end goals that kind of align with ours. I feel like that's a good summary of the notes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I had that in my notes, but I know that it's something that I did want to talk about. Yeah, I think I mentioned this last week too in our meeting. How Nana Malcolm, he showed his growth throughout this book. You want to get your thing because you can see it.
Not really.
All right. Yeah, Nana Malcolm showed his growth throughout this book, and he wasn't afraid to admit it. Because a lot of times, especially I'll say in the struggle, I guess, or in the what is labeled now as the conscious community, people they hang on to who you were in the past. And humans do this generally, just, as a way of life. But yeah, he showed that growth in there. And I resonated with it actually, as far as if white people show that they genuinely want to be of assistance to us in our movement, in our struggle, in our liberation, then it's imperative that they don't just try to hang on to our coattails, or our pockets like the guy did yesterday. But they really create their own movements because, at the end of the day, tearing down this system, what we know as Babylon is bigger than just black people. This system that exists, it oppresses a lot of other people as well. And so yeah, I agree with that for sure. Definitely. I actually remember at one of my jobs, I had a coworker. He's a white guy. He was very interested in studying, like, Thomas and Cora, a lot of the great ancestors and the leaders in our movement. And I just asked him why. And, he was like, he want to help or whatever. He just wants to know more. And I was like, how do you plan to do that? He was like, joining, black organizations and things like this. And this was just me speaking from the heart, which I guess it was the ancestors speaking through me. But I told him exactly what Nana Malcolm said. I was like, no, fam, you don't join our organizations. I didn't have the detail or the thorough reasoning as to why he shouldn't join our organizations like Nana Malcolm explained. But I told him that it was best that, either he create his own or, he go do that. He go do that with the white folks. Don't get in our way. Yeah. Something else he mentioned, I guess, in that, I don't remember exactly what page that was on, but he was like that hinders what our organizations can actually do when we bring in these white folks. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times they end up paying for whatever we do, so that's why it hinders or limits what we're able to do with our organizations. But yeah, that's a topic that needs to be seriously reflected on by the people who call themselves leaders in the movement. But yeah, do you have anything else on that you want to touch on?
Well, you said it hinders us. I guess I would use a different word for that. I would say it's kind of like it like debilitates us, where when we become dependent on them, mm-hmm. because maybe they do have the funds and they want to help, but then you end up like a lot of organizations where it's just, you see black people, but it's all the strings, so to speak, are pulled by the people behind the scenes, which have become white people.
Right. I.e. the civil rights movement. So yeah, I agree. Yeah, anything else on that? Mm-mm. Okay. Yeah, so I have a few things I wanted to go through. I nailed them out. So I wanted to talk about Nana Malcolm's experience in Mecca. And essentially, yeah, what she was talking about is now coming to the conclusion that not every white man is evil. And him experiencing total brotherhood. Then I want to talk about the deterioration of Malcolm and Ali's relationship because of whom we all know, essentially. So we could touch on that briefly. I want to talk about his travels throughout Africa, his experience. And also I found this just something very small, but I thought it was interesting. And it was, I put it down as people will always be drawn to their own people, no matter how brotherly or the location that they are in. So give more context on that. speak a little bit about the OAU and his wanting to create a new organization once he left the Nation of Islam. His transition into Pan-Africanism. And then I wanted to touch again on Nana Malcolm's unhealthy relationship with Elijah Muhammad, because he himself actually spoke about it like really briefly in the last few chapters. All right, so we can start from the top. Let me get to my page here.
Yeah.
Not too far. All right, so yeah, first let's just talk about Nana Malcolm's experience in Mecca. Before we get to the brotherhood thing. So what did you think about his experience in Mecca, what he explained?
Well, the very first thing I want to point out is how he mentioned the eating from one pot thing.
Oh yeah.
And that is something that we talked about, especially wanting to visit and eventually move back to Africa, is the cultural aspect of eating from one plate or pot type thing. And when you don't grow up used to that, it doesn't seem like the way to go. And so that's basically how he explained it. It was something that he had to get used to, but it became easier once he did feel that sense of brotherhood, not just, it was more of a community feel.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
that's the first thing.
Yeah, that's definitely it's a part of our culture as African people. I guess all indigenous cultures kind of do that in some way, shape, or form. But coming from the West, like we're not used to that at all. So, and as you said, Nana Malcolm, he wasn't used to it either. But came a point where he let all of that, I'll say, his guard down, and he gave himself to the energy that was present, and that was a communal, that was a brotherly and sisterly energy, and allow him to not even think twice and to really commune with brothers in Islam. So yeah, that was pretty cool that he was honest about it and wasn't like, yeah, we was all eating from the same pot. At first he showed that transition and that transition. Yeah, that transition. But yeah, I'll talk about this briefly. Like his time in Mecca. Well, first of all, him getting there was difficult. He went through like a whole 24 hours of just being by himself amongst people he didn't know, couldn't speak to him. The only thing he could do was gesture and like point at different things. Even one point he was going through the airport and they actually took him because he had to go see like who did they need him to see?
Basically, like for us, it would be kind of like a judge.
Yeah, like a judge or something like that, to see if he was an authentic Muslim, because he was the first to come from America. And you know how other countries, or if you don't know, you should know how other countries perceive America. So they probably looked at him as like a joke. He wasn't taking or respecting their culture, their religion, and things like that. So they checked him. But he had some plugs, for lack of better words, and he was able to get all of that stuff straight. So, but it was dope to see the respect that he had from Muslims who were from Arabia and Mecca, Egypt, and all of these different places, even in Africa, unbeknownst to him. And when he was going through all of that stuff, they were able to help him out. I thought that was pretty dope. How they, just had that great respect for him, as we all do. And that just continues to say a lot about who Nana Malcolm was. To influence and impact people that he doesn't even know, miles and thousands of miles away across the world. So I thought that part was dope about his arrival in Mecca. Yeah, so let's tap into this white man being evil or not evil. So yeah, so he talks briefly about I guess a moment where he realized that he had to reassess his feelings about the white man being evil. And I'm trying to give the precursor, give more context to what I have underlined.
Well, I mean, he was taken care of by people that,
Yeah, true.
if we saw them here, you would just say they're white.
They're white. Yeah.
They let him stay at their house, eat with them.
Mm-hmm.
They took care of him as far as his travel.
Mm-hmm.
They set him up nice. He had like driver, tour guide, a translator,
big hotel, stayed at a nice hotel. And that's kind of what transpired to what I have underlined here. And he says after all of these things began to happen, that's when he started to reappraise the white man. He said it's when he first began to perceive that white man, as commonly used, means complexion only secondarily. Primarily, it describes attitudes and actions. In America, white man meant specific attitudes and actions toward the black man and toward all other non-white men. But in the Muslim world, I have seen that men with white complexions were more genuinely brotherly than anyone else had ever been. So I thought that was very interesting for him to say. And I understand it a bit. It's kind of like how you were saying earlier, how the society has implanted in all of us, the way of being and interacting with each other. And the white man here, the European man, has adapted to this devilish energy. And I think I mentioned this in last week's meeting. But yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. But he even explained himself that once he got back to America, because the media, they played into that. They played into, so you don't think white men are this, you don't think white men are that anymore. And he admitted that the white man that he met in Arabia or in Egypt, they had a totally different energy about them than the ones here in America do or did. So he still wanted to make that clear distinction between those white men there and the white men here in America. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
The main thing was the shared religion.
Yeah, that was what he
let them.
Yeah.
Have that attitude of being brotherly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why he continues to go in to say that he believed, part one reason why he said Islam is the religion that may be able to save the white man as well in America, because it would allow from what he saw across the water to see his black counterparts and other non-white people as their brothers. But you know, as he continued to go into a lot of those things, I found that I of course, you know, this was what in the 60s, you know, I disagreed in some aspects because, you know, history shows us different, that even though these people practice Islam, there are Muslims who still, you know, show a certain type of racism or this white supremacist personality against black Muslims, you know, in the world. And so I think that was just Malcolm's first time being exposed to that, you know. And you know how like when you're exposed to something for the first time, man, you know, it's like, wow, you know what I mean? Like it's like, yo, are you serious right now? And so I think that was a part of it. But at the same time, that was none of Malcolm's experience, and I respect it. You dig what I'm saying? I respect it. And I respect Islam as well. But the white man has shown himself since then that he does not care about us. And so I'm not sure. Well, I'm not even gonna say I'm not sure. I know that Islam is not what will make the white man stop being a white man. What happened? You good? All right. Another thing about the Brotherhood, in reading Nana Chancellor Williams' The Destruction of Black Civilization, he talks a lot about the Arabization and the Islamization of Africa, and the Arabs coming into Africa and masking their colonization as brotherhood. You know what I'm saying? They mask it as that, and you know the Africans. We allowed them to come in to our kingdoms, to our place, and they essentially took over. And then Nana Williams says that the European observed this behavior. You know, they observed how the Arabs came in and installed Islam and masked everything as brotherhood. Began to take African women as concubines and, you know, do all of these things, but still oppress us. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not sure, you know, that's why in this book, I wish Nana Malcolm would have spoke about his time with Nana Clark, you know, but, you know, you never know what Malcolm knew. You never know what he didn't put in his book. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to speak and be like, oh, he was unaware of all of these things. But yeah, so it's like when he was speaking about Islam being this and being that, and even a few times he said Arabic was an African language. I slightly disagreed with a lot of it just because of, you know, another viewpoint of history that I have. And so, yeah, I thought I wanted to touch on that as far as to the brotherhood perspective that Nana Malcolm brought up. Let's see something. What did I put here? Yeah. Yep. So that's what I wanted to talk about with that one. Let's see what we got next. So let's talk about, very briefly, it's not really much to cover on this topic, but the deterioration of Malcolm's and Ali's relationship. What do you think about how that went down?
I thought it was sad, kind of.
Yeah.
But also at the end of the day, actually, no, yeah, I just thought it was sad Especially they had like a weird interaction that he talked about later in the book. And for them to have been as close as they were as far as being around each other's families and things like that, and then to go to this awkward, like almost strangers exchange was sad. But he didn't really go into much detail as to why, but we know why because of what happened between him and the Nation of Islam. There was really no room for them to continue to be close friends as they were. So it just happened as it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have anything else to really add on to it. You know, it was like Elijah Muhammad, you know, and I pay respects for what he did for uh, African people here in America with the creation of the Nation of Islam. But you know, he had our ancestors' minds, man. He really did, and he had their hearts, you know, to the point to where all he had to do was snap his fingers, and you know, they turned against um, one another. You know, at least the ones who didn't really have their minds and that in their hearts in that aspect. And that's what happened between Malcolm and Ali. You know, for a little while at least, but it took Nana Malcolm being killed for Ali to, you know, release whatever he was feeling, you know, against him. So I thought that was very telling and played a part, or well, goes into how I was speaking about Malcolm's unhealthy relationship with Elijah Muhammad. And so, since we on that right there, I'll just go to one of my last points, which was Malcolm speaking about, you know, his relationship very briefly. Um, yeah, so Malcolm says, in Mecca too, I had played back for myself. This is on page 371, chapter 1965. In Mecca too, I had played back for myself the 12 years I had spent with Elijah Muhammad as if it were a motion picture. I guess it would be impossible for anyone ever to realize fully how complete was my belief in Elijah Muhammad. I believed in him not only as a leader in the ordinary human sense, but also I believed in him as a divine leader. I believed he had no human weaknesses or faults, and that therefore he could make no mistakes, and that he could do no wrong. There on the Holy World hilltop, I realized how very dangerous it is for people to hold any human being in such esteem, especially to consider anyone's some sort of divinely guided or protected person. So I thought that spoke directly, almost word for word, bar for bar, for what I spoke about. And I want to say one of these last two meetings, you know, can't remember exactly which one, about it being very dangerous for us to hold another human being in this godly like yes, God exists in all of us and we are creation, but we can't hold other humans as they are God, you know, as if they created the universe. You dig what I'm saying? And that's where we, as the Bible says, you know, we idolize or don't idolize um, anyone, you know, because you can fall flat on your face, you know, you can be led astray. So yeah, what did you think about Nana Malcolm actually reflecting on his relationship?
Well, didn't they see him as a prophet?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what he called himself, presented himself as. Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, outside of what you just said, um, obviously it's dangerous to put anybody on a pedestal to where you're feeling like they don't have any human weakness because they are human. But it also reminded me of what we were talking about, that thing where, that show on the TV when we were at the hospital that was talking about Jesus actually having like a whole life that just wasn't in the Bible.
oh yeah,
It kind of made me think about that, like,
yeah,
because if we're all human and all humans have weaknesses and make mistakes, then it's kind of just like whatever comes to light or whatever history decides to record that becomes important.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And then, if you have this person who is seen as a divine leader and you present their weaknesses or what happened throughout their life, then they all of a sudden become, to the masses of people, unfortunately, they usually become less than, that divine. People view Jesus as Jesus because in the Bible it says he did no wrong, he never sinned, and he was the Son of God. So if that is all we know of Jesus, then it's like, how can you refute anything else? We have to see him as this. And it seems as though Nana Malcolm viewed Elijah Muhammad in the same light.
mm-hmm.
Not sure if he knew anything he knew about his upbringing. But I'm not sure if he knew about anything he did that would be as a sin. You know what I'm saying? But yes, and again, I say that's why I appreciated reading this book so much, because, a lot of times with our leaders, like the Honorable Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Kwame Ture, Assata Shakur, Martin Luther King, like we see these people as like almost like things, like spectacles, their lives as spectacles and of something that we can't even accomplish and we can't do. But when we learn their stories, we learn about the mistakes they made, their experiences in this world, then it allows us to humanize them. And then we realize that, okay, I can actually do what he did, or I can make better what he or she did, So yeah, I thought that Malcolm reflecting on, how important it is to not hold another human, or how dangerous it is to hold another human being in that light. Is so yeah, I thought that was dope. Let's see. Okay, we can go to Malcolm's travels in Africa. Malcolm honestly spoke about his travels in Africa from like page 355 on to the end of the book, and maybe even before that. Actually, he spoke briefly about his meeting with Kwame and Nkrumah. I thought that was dope. That he got to meet, and he got to meet so many other African leaders, and they already had a tremendous respect for him. And it seems as though the leaders in that time, like they were really speaking revolution. They were really observant of our experience here in America. They knew, or they spoke as if they knew or felt our connection to them, being here. I can't remember exactly. Let me see, maybe it's on this page. Yeah, it's right here on page 351. Does it say who he was speaking to? It doesn't say exactly who he was speaking to, but he was speaking to an African man. And the man ended up saying with passionate anger, as Nana Malcolm says, "Why is the American black man so complacent about being trampled upon? Why doesn't the American black man fight to be a human being?" Then a Sudanese high official hugged him, he said, and said, "You champion the American black man." Then he said an Indian official came to him and said the same thing. Then he said a Chinese official, ambassador, came and said the same thing. And then he went in to say how, like, as black people here in America, we're so unaware of the actual support that we have from different nations and racial groups, as you should say. And I think it's because like we're so complacent in a way. We fight. We march. We have problems. We address problems that we have with the American system, but we don't try to take it internationally. We don't look at it as an international struggle, as a global struggle, and that's problematic. Because the same man that is oppressing us here, in the slums of Chicago, in the slums of Brooklyn, New York, in the slums of Columbia, South Carolina, those are the same people who are, striking war on Nigeria right now, right, Simbi? Those are the same people who Mali and Burkina Faso are trying to kick out of Africa right now. You dig what I'm saying? They're all the same people. So our struggle is global. And I touch here with Malcolm's kind of his first expression of what we call Pan-Africanism now. He says, I think the single worst mistake of and this is on page 352, I think the single worst mistake of the American Black organizations and their leaders is that they have failed to establish direct brotherhood lines of communication between the independent nations of Africa and the American Black people. Why? Every day, the Black African heads of state should be receiving direct accounts of the latest developments in the American Black man's struggles. Instead of the U.S. State Department releases to Africans, which always imply that American Black man's struggle is being solved. And so this goes into that goes into Pan-Africanism, that goes into Black nationalism or African nationalism. We must see ourselves as one people. We must see ourselves as connected, and we must see Africa as our homeland. Mm-hmm. And as we see Africa as our homeland, the affairs of Black people worldwide are able to be dealt with. We're able to have people or ambassadors, as they're labeled now, and all of these people. Uh-oh. She might be trying to go to sleep and we so loud. It's me, I'm talking so loud. But
all right, I'm gonna take her.
All right. Well, Asante Sana.
It's been a pleasure
for joining the show today. All right, Cindy. I'll try to talk quietly. She's like, yo, you so loud, Baba. All right. Say bye-bye. Say Kwaheri. All right. Oh man. But yes, it's important that we have and I want to probably make another video about this separately, like individual video, but it's important that we have our people in places to where we can have support, if anything happens to Black people anywhere they are here in the United States, Caribbean, South America, Europe, wherever, you know what I'm saying? And this is something that we still have a problem with, and we still haven't done this. I was speaking to a African brethren from Ghana Friday night, just about how Black people in America just don't even see themselves as being African. They don't even see themselves as having a connection to the continent. And I think in 2023, we have to realize that this is very problematic, and this does not cause for anything good to happen. We must know our history. We must know the things that we've tried, the things that we've done, and see where it's gotten us. I don't think we've ever tried Pan-Africanism fully. Not from America, we haven't. I feel like, Caribbean nations and, other Black nations around the world have tried this in different aspects. Specifically, Barbados comes to mind right now with, having ties to African nations. And I mean, African heads of state, they come to America, but they aren't meeting with Black people who have power and control. They aren't meeting with like an African organization like the AOU. You know, I don't even think that organization exists anymore. You know, and that's the organization that Nana Malcolm built to bridge that gap that he just spoke about. You know what I'm saying? I don't even think the African Union tries to or has established places here in America, you know. And if I'm speaking incorrectly, well, I shouldn't even really speak on it because I'm not sure. But if anyone knows, and you get to this point in the video, and you know if there's an African Union ambassador or, you know, anything of the sort where we could establish power possibly and build a connection between here and the continent, then let me know for sure. I'd be open to learning more about that. But yes, Nana Malcolm, man, his experience in Africa was like none other. You know, he said when he was in Africa, he had been received by the people better than he had been received by any group of white or black people here in America. You know, with the level of respect and reverence and admiration that they expressed for this man. You know, it was beautiful to read. You know, and I could see it so vividly. You know, he even mentioned like a group of expats, and Maya Angelou was a part of this group with a bunch of other people who, you know, helped take care of him. You know, they had been living in Ghana for a good while, helped take care of him when he was in Ghana, and helped him get around and have meetings with different places. You know, he has speeches at different places. He said the agents was trying to get him, but the African brethren and sister was really really attacking these men or women who tried to stand up and reject or denounce what he was talking about or question. You know what I'm saying? And that was just power, man. You know, that was so much power. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, man. I have so much I want to cover, but you know, I think I might have to end it right now. I think we spoke or covered a good bit of, you know, Nana Malcolm's story, you know, and the things that we felt relevant. And we give thanks, you know, we just want to give thanks to Nana Malcolm and his story and what he did for the people, the message that he left for us. And again, as I mentioned before, he said at the end of the book, you know, if his life experience influences, you know, a next generation of people, then he has done all that he can do, because he knew he wouldn't get to see the book in its finished form. You know what I'm saying? And so reading that was just that simple thing was inspirational. But, you know, we take Nana Malcolm's experience and we apply it to ourselves, and we continue to fight and look onwards to African liberation, to African nationhood, you know, ukombozi wa Afrika, you know, the liberation of our people worldwide. And so we just give thanks. I give thanks for y'all tuning into this video. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Comment, let's reason. Please visit our bookstore, Sante Sana Books. We specialize in African literature, all genres, and we just seek to build community. If you want to support, please click the PayPal. You can donate. We accept those as well. Oh yeah, if you would like to join our Discord as well, to where we just share literature, share different events that's going on throughout, you know, the world, African events specifically, you can join the Discord for sure. And let's reason, let's build. And yeah, you know, I mean, this is your brethren Kamal with Maktaba ya Chinwe, and we just finished covering the Autobiography of Malcolm X. Again, give thanks for tuning in. Asante Sana, Natua, Shukrani, Salama.